When they attack black people after they've been murdered, when they did absolutely nothing wrong, you're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people, they lynched people, they raped people, they enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. And so don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers in the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages. They snatched babies, and they sold them as property, and they raped their mothers. Savages. That's what they were. You want to talk about stereotypes? Screw all of you who still defend that Confederacy, that monstrosity. Anyone who defends that is a barbaric savage.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So this video right here got me really thinking, right? Because it's basically white folks themselves coming out and saying it's plain that white people have always been racist towards black people, right? And they're admitting that, white people would say that we are savages or violent, when in reality, the worst violence was done to us by them, palm-colored people, right? And they're even saying that black people are God's chosen ones. And honestly, when you think about it, it actually makes sense, right? Our melanin is powerful. It protects us from the sun while theirs burns, right? For us, sunlight fuels us, and it's like energy for the body, right? And that is deep. So thank you so much for tapping in. When you saw this video, please hit that like button, please subscribe if you haven't already. Let's watch the clips and we'll come back and talk about it.
Man, I tell you what, nothing makes racist white people more pissed off than me, a white person, trying to educate about racism and trying to educate about what white privilege is and all these things. And it's so funny because these same people will argue with me till they are blue in the face about how they're not racist and we don't live in a racist institution and black and brown people have it so easy and racism doesn't exist anymore. But then they will turn around and say the most racist, ignorant, vile shit you've ever heard in your life. The disconnect is amazing. And this is why I make content like this, because it's so important, because we do live in a racist institution and we are all raised in racism as white people. This is simply a fact. And the crazy part about it is every one of us knows this. Even the ones who will sit there and fight with me to the death about it and act like it doesn't exist. Y'all know white people are racist. Y'all know about the casual racism, the casual microaggressions that we are raised in, no matter where we live in this United States of America. And this is why I will never stop. I will never stop trying to educate as a white person about racism and how we need to learn. We need to evolve. We need to do better. It's almost as if they feel like admitting to a racist institution or admitting to racism makes them this evil, terrible person. And so they would rather double down than to grow and be a good person. And that's so bad, because all that says to me is that you have a small mind and a cowardly soul. And I wish better for you than that, truly, because everything in your life will get better when you stop being so ignorant.
It sucks to be a white American. Now hold on, give me a chance, let me explain. I want you to think of the kind of person who would put on a White Lives Matter sticker on the back of their Ford pickup. Why do they do that? Is it all racism? Well, yeah. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. White Americans basically have no culture. Not in the same way we see other people. And we white people, we know this inherently, and it scares us. We know we have our regional cultures. Our cities, our sports teams, and families all give us our regional culture, but being white basically means nothing, or generally at least nothing positive. White people throughout American history are almost always seen on the side of the oppressors. Not all white people, but most of us. And this sucks to learn. It's even harder to internalize. And it's why white people usually don't accept this, because it makes us feel a deep sense of guilt. I think it's why white people say nonsense like, I can't be racist, I have black friends. Sure, you probably don't see black people as objects, but you're refusing to accept the role our people have had in their oppression. That guilt we feel is our responsibility for the actions of our ancestors. It's why white people refuse to say that black people deserve reparation, because it admits our guilt. But black people deserve reparations. It just makes sense logically. You can sue someone for scratching your car, but black people can't sue the American government for the enslavement of their people. My people are arresting and deporting Mexican families from this country. Think about that. We are telling people that they are not allowed on the land we stole. Let's go a step further. White people stole a sacred land site from the people indigenous to this land and then carved 4 white people's faces on it, most of which were slave owners. I mean, Mount Rushmore is a place that we look at and we're like, oh, cool, giant faces. But to other people, it's a giant form of oppression. And admitting that and coming to terms with that sucks. We suck, dude. My people really and truly suck. Not all of us contributed to this oppression, but we are all a part of it. And this will mostly sound like virtue signaling. It will mostly sound like, look at how rough we are. But there is a reality to admitting this guilt and being honest with it. Because white people are afraid to do this. And we're afraid to admit it because my people are weak. White people are weak. We have power we have given ourselves and put down the cultures that are stronger than us because we know that we're weak. If white Americans were oppressed the same way black, native, or Mexican American people are, we would crack like glass. Our culture and identity as white people is so meaningless that we do everything in our power to keep other people down so that we don't break from having someone else on top. I think that's why you see white Americans championing white pride, not just out of ignorance or racism, but it's because they are scared. They're scared to come to terms with their guilt, scared to admit they're wrong, and terrified to acknowledge that we may have all the societal, economic, and political power, but as a people we are weak. But this isn't the way it has to be forever. I have hope that one day my people will finally take responsibility for what we have done. I hope that we'll collectively accept our role in the oppression of our non-white brothers and sisters and finally take action. And it will take the action of us white folks. It's not just non-white people that have to fight for their rights. It's us too fighting for them because our cross to bear is being born white. Being born with the skin color of the oppressors means that we have to fight to be nothing like them. We're not near that right now. America is in a tumultuous stage where it very much does not feel like white people are acknowledging where they went wrong. But I want to have hope, and I refuse to accept that one day justice won't prevail. Collectively, we can all shed the shadow of oppression and share this place together. And that's the message I want to end with. I want to be hopeful that one day oppression will be something taught in history class, something that we don't have to see ourselves in. That's what I hope. Anyway, I want to be optimistic in the end. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Many people don't want to acknowledge that the black community are the chosen people because, let's get deep into this, because in reality, they have the knowledge that most people don't have. Like, the only reason why people know how to farm is because of the black community. The only reason why we have the music that we have today is because of the black community. There wouldn't be no rock or metal if it wasn't for blues and jazz. There wouldn't be pop music if it wasn't for disco. There's a lot of things that they created that white people never did. White people really don't have that deep of knowledge. It's either stolen ideas or they're bought. Let's be real. What did white people really invent? You could say Tesla from Elon Musk, but he didn't make that. It was a stolen idea. If you go read what he did, he literally stole the whole business. You can say Trump, but what did Trump do? Stolen ideas, copied somebody else's ideas, just like his speeches. It's like a lot of white people just copy people. I mean, look at the dances on here. Who created those dances? The black community. And that's why this app's so boring right now, because it's not because all this stuff that's going on and the negativity. The black community literally just took their energy away. That's why this app was positive, because a lot of the white people were copying their dance move, copying this, copying that, and they stopped doing it, stopped posting on here, because none of you will give them the credit or the acknowledgement that they created that dance move or that idea. Before this land was taken, white people had no clue what the fuck to do. They were taught their language, they were taught how to farm, they were taught how to season their food that they still don't know how to do. That's another thing, seasoning. All their favorite foods, barbecuing. You love the barbecue, right? That was the black community's idea. This is why they are chosen. They have the knowledge that most people don't have. There's a possibility there is white people who are chosen, because let's face the facts. What happened during the Roman times and the slavery and all this other stuff, the black women were getting raped. So they were having their children. So there might be a bigger chance than we think that a lot of white people might have possibly a little black in them. That's why white people are jealous of them, because they know they have no creative ideas. They don't know how to cook, some of them. They don't know how to do much anything. They have to copy and paste everything the black community does, because they have no ideas of their own, or they're jealous of their looks, jealous of their ding-dongs, whatever. Because their light is shining more than white people's. And honestly, the Bible says there's antichrists everywhere. The antichrist, blah, blah, blah. But white people are the antichrist. You have no Christ consciousness whatsoever. If anything, you try to erase Christ consciousness. I mean, look at all of you right now in this day and age. But yeah, none of you has Christ consciousness. Most white people are full of hate. And a lot of black people are full of love. How do I know this? Because the black community treated me better than my own race. Let's just face the facts right there. The black community has treated me better than the white people. Back to the Antichrist, though. You have Jim Jones. You have Trump. You have a bunch of white people always saying they're trying to save the world, and they always don't. Those are Antichrists. Always white people doing it. But yeah, most of our knowledge that we know today, the music we have today, the foods we have today, is all from the black community's ideas, which is Christ consciousness, and God gave that knowledge for everyone.
Let me just say, hearing white people say out loud what we've always known, it hits different, because for so long we've been told that we were less than, or that we were imagining racism. But when they admit it themselves, that's a confirmation that the truth can't be hidden anymore, right? They're admitting that black people created the culture, right? Black people created the music. They created the food, the music, the rhythm, even farming, right? And honestly, they're not lying. Our ancestors were the first farmers, right? We passed down the knowledge of the land, how to grow crops, how to sustain communities, right? A lot of what white people know, they learn from us. And that's just history. And let us be real, when they call us savages or violent, I think about who was really chaining who, right? Who was whipping, who was lynching, who was burning and terrorizing families for generations. That wasn't us, that was them. Yet the label got put on us somehow. And that's why I always say that racism is one of the biggest gaslighting tools ever created. The part that got me, though, is when they said that black people are God's chosen ones. Listen, I felt that in my spirit, because look at us. After everything that we've been through, slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, systemic racism that's still alive right now. We're still here. We still shine. Our skin, our resilience, our creativity, you can't erase that. You can't kill that. Melanin itself is proof of our strength.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways in intersectionality, but like it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the empire, like in the city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
Racism devastates people from the global majority the most, obviously. Let's be really clear about that. But whiteness carries a cost for white people too, and I wish white people could get that into their heads. It shows up in how isolated we often are. In regions like the Northeast and Wales, over 90% of people are white British, and a third of white Britons say they have no friends from a global majority background. I mean, think about what that means. We are cut off from whole worlds of perspective, from different ways of thinking, problem solving, creativity, ideas, joy, humor, you name it. Instead of gaining resilience through difference, we stay small and we stay shallow and we cling to sameness, and I guess we call that normal. Whiteness looks like power, but it's really a cage. It cuts us off from the richness of life itself. Racism dehumanizes people of color, but it also diminishes white people. And anti-racism isn't charity work, remember. It's how we open the door to fuller humanity, connection, and possibility. I mean, it would be great if we did this out of the goodness of our hearts and for the sake of justice. But if that feels like too much to ask, do it for selfish reasons. Do it because your life will be richer, deeper, funnier, and better if you do.
If they say you're race baiting, it means that you mention the word white. If they say you always make it about race, you've either accurately described your own race or said the word white. If they say you're always stoking division, it means you've shared a statistic unfavorable to white people. If they say you're the reason racism continues, what they mean is if you just stop talking about your existence or existing, then white people wouldn't have to deal with the minor inconvenience of having to hear about it. If they say they're Black fatigued, that means that they don't like it when Black people express their own experience in life that is in contrast to theirs.
Oh, let them build a white-only community in Arkansas. They'll find out. They'll find out how bored they are. I mean, without Mexican, Indigenous, Black, Asian influences, like, what are they even doing? Like just eating mayonnaise and listening to country music, I guess? Like, I'd be really worried about the kids in that community, though, right? Like, they're going to become the entertainment in an evil sort of way. But other than that, just let them have their experiment. They'll find out.
Sometimes in my comments, people say, if I just stopped talking about racism, it would go away. If only. But that's not how any of this works. Look, if silence fixed racism, we'd be living in a post-racial paradise right now. The reason so many of us, especially white folks, don't know how to deal with racism is because we don't talk about it. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't do it in schools, not in church, not at dinner parties, not even at our home dinner tables with our kids. What we did learn was how to change the subject, how to flinch when someone brought it up, how to get real uncomfortable real fast, and then blame that discomfort on the person who brought it up. But racism doesn't disappear just because you pretend it's impolite to mention it. It thrives in silence. It festers when it's ignored. Talking about it is not the problem. Talking about it is the first step toward understanding it and undoing it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So nope, I'm not going to stop talking about it. And if that makes you squirm a little, maybe you need to sit with that a little bit and figure out what that's trying to tell you. One share or comment or save shows that you care about setting the record straight.
So I have a question for white people, and this is a very genuine question. Please listen and give me grace. Because it seems like the only way we can have any type of discussion with y'all or conversation with y'all is if we don't include race, or everything is colorless. Everything is racially ambiguous. Even though we know there are particular issues that affect the Black community that need to be addressed. For example, talking about law enforcement, we know that police brutalize everybody. So why is it that when Black people bring it up, white people want to bring up how much they've been brutalized, but there's no call to action afterward? When we bring up slavery, we are fully aware of what happened to the Irish. We're fully aware of the injustices. The issue is, why are we acting like whiteness wasn't extended to them at some point to include them? Because on some level, it's not empathy, it's silencing. If you're telling me that you share the struggle and you don't do anything about the struggle, that tells me you're cool with the struggle. I don't think we can relate. So please let me know, why is it so uncomfortable for white people to discuss race? Because if we discuss race, we start to break down the systems that all of us are suffering from. Everything in the United States is based on race. As much as you don't want to deal with it, it is. We need to address it now.
I think the real reason that some white people get upset or like don't understand when they see Black people in spaces that they're in, or Black people in positions of authority or advancing and things like that, the reason that they relate it to like, well, it must be like you're getting something that you're not qualified for, like it is racism, but there's another underlying part of that, and it really boils down to the fact that they can't fathom a reality where you advance in life, where you get a position, where you move up at all without stealing something or stepping on somebody or exploiting somebody. They can't, in their brain, they don't have any recall within their collective history of any time period where they've been able to build without stealing or massacring or doing something to somebody else. So like when they see another group of people, whether that be Black people or POC, in positions that they feel like, well, no, that's my position. And when they see them, they think that, well, you couldn't have got it any other way besides taking it from somebody and like stealing it. There's no way you actually worked for it, because in their history and present day, they don't have, even within the country itself, standing up, the United States, they don't have any like precedent of like existing, like moving up, like building without taking something from somebody, without stealing. Like they have no creativity in their mind. Well, not even creativity, they have no recall, and lack the imagination to imagine that being a possibility. So when they see a Black person or a POC in spaces and things like that, it's got to be the DEI thing, even though it don't make sense. That's the only thing they have in their brain. It's like the only way you able to make it, the only way I know you make it in this world is by stealing stuff and like, you know, exploiting and like taking things away from people that belong to them. They things, and that's it. That's all they got. So yeah, it's the racism, of course, but it's also there's another part of that psychologically where they just don't have the recall. There's no precedent set yet, and they refuse. I don't know, to set a precedent where they can, advance, evolve without exploiting or stealing from other people across the globe and right next door. So that's it. They just can't understand in their brain and just don't connect. Like, how were you able to make it as a black person? And then to look at a black person and know like black people's history of subjugation and oppression, and then see you actually moving, they're like, no, there's absolutely no how you fucking doing that. Blows their brain. So they had to come up with something. And the only thing they come up is what they were able to do since the beginning of days. And by the way, yes, that is stealing from other people. Taking all the things. Culture, resources, land. That's it. That's all they had. Unfortunately. Unfortunately for them. Because eventually, you keep resting on the fact you got to steal while other people making advancements on their own, pulling their own selves up by the bootstraps, even without fucking boots, making the boots themselves. Come a day where you don't even know how to make boots. You don't know how to do anything. Okay, y'all have a great day.
So I mentioned how I don't ever want to live around a bunch of white liberals again. And I spent most of my life living in Santa Cruz, California, where there is a lot of white liberals. And I have to tell you, those are some of the most racist people in America. White liberals have tried to silence my voice, have tried to get me fired. White liberals have called me racial slurs multiple times. White liberals think black people are a monolith and are only allowed to act a certain way, vote a certain way. White liberals are working to lower the educational standards for black and brown kids, which is hurting them. White liberals want to have a permanent brown underclass to do all of their hard work, all the jobs they don't want to do. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I never want to live in a majority white liberal area again. And don't even get me started on COVID.
You would not have to feel white. The entire world sees how desperate you are to get rid of anything that is not straight and white. And it's not because you are strong, it's because you are weak. Extremely weak. Like I said in a video before, without minorities, this country would be the weakest it has ever been. Y'all will not win this race.
It's wild because white people will go tanning to buy products and even risk skin damage just to try to get the look that comes to us naturally, right? But we don't have to copy them. They copy us. The culture, the slang, the music, the lifestyle, it all comes from black people. Yet we're still the ones who get demonized. Here's the thing though, seeing white people wake up to this truth, that's important because it means that conversations are shifting, right? It means that more people might listen, and it doesn't just erase what's been done. I get that, but it can plant seeds, right? And honestly, the more people who admit the truth, the harder it will be for society to keep ignoring it. For me, this video isn't about hating anyone. It's about recognizing the truth. And the truth is, our people have been carrying the world on our backs for centuries. We've given so much to humanity, and it's time that more people respected that, right? So yeah, I definitely want to know what y'all think. Do you believe that black people are God's chosen people? Do you agree with what these white folks are saying? Please drop your thoughts in the comments. Also, this video is not to incite hate or violence of any kind. This is just for education and commentary. Thank you so much for tapping in, and I'll see you on my next one.